Kimberly Skyrme. I am so excited. Like, honestly, I just want to tell everyone, thank you all for joining us today for our next podcast, our Chesapeake Film Festival podcast. Today is a really, really special. I've been waiting for this for quite a long time. Kimberly Skyrme is a trailblazer in the industry and in her own community, and she's someone that I've looked up to for years. I'm just really excited to have you here today. She is very successful. Kimberly does her work at 110%, and you're always on the go. Like, I don't know how you do it. It's amazing. So I would love to have a wonderful, candid conversation with you and maybe talk to you about some of your passions, how you got to where you are. You have such a fascinating career. And also, what can other people learn from you who may want to go not only in the film industry, but who specifically have a passion for casting? So I would love to talk to you about that. So Kimberly, would you like to introduce yourself? Who are you? Where did you come from?
Well, certainly, as you mentioned, casting. I mean, that was my first love. It was a very accidental interview for a job. A friend who was a master's student at American University, yay for American, and we both have that in common.
That's right.
And she said that, they don't pay very much money. Why don't you interview for the job in case I don't want it? And I interviewed and feel so fortunate that I was offered the job, and that, was just a beginning. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but what a treat it was to just accidentally stumble upon a job that became a career, that became a first love of storytelling. And a really important part of storytelling is the cast. I mean, obviously the script is the roadmap and all the other players that come together, but the actors are the lifeblood of the story. So
That's wonderful.
and how it all began.
Yeah.
So we do have to have a love of actor and a love of story. And also it's really helpful if you're organized, because there's a lot of organization that goes into casting. So if you're not good at that part, you better find a partner who you can work with to make that happen.
For sure. So Kimberly, tell us, where are you from originally, and what titles do you hold?
So where am I from originally? I hail from Connecticut, which love New England. So a New Englander through and through, and ended up staying in the DC area because of college, and then found this great job. So I've had an amazing career in an industry that in the early 90s was very robust with feature films coming through. It was very much pre 9/11. So we were in a situation where, although there was red tape with the government and all the glamour shots that people would come to get, it was definitely much easier to film then. And so it was an amazing training ground. While I studied theater in college, I didn't study film and TV, that I was able to really garner an education here in the DC area on set with just some of the greatest directors, producers, costumers, actors, assistant directors, like the whole lot. But hail from Connecticut and landed here in DC, and very happy for that. To be in a market that's not New York and Los Angeles, it really afforded me an opportunity as a casting director to hit all of the lanes. In bigger markets, you often end up working in one area more than another. And I was able to work in commercials, to work in feature films, to work in training videos, and then even very specifically government training videos, which isn't happening in a lot of other markets, but definitely happening here because we have all the government agencies. So they were seeking assistance.
What other roles do you play other than casting? Because there are many.
Many roles. So in my early days of independent film, when I was helping, which I quickly learned was producing, that because of my love of just storytelling and art and creative things, that I would watch masters on all the big shows. So I have literally helped in independent films in every department, but I'm a big fan of set design, production design, costume design. So I've literally done every job except for electricians, because you could burn things down. So I got to be careful about that. And I have not been a greenskeeper, although I did repot a plant one time on a set. So I guess maybe I could even be considered that I did greens as well. But my official titles that I hold now proudly are obviously casting director and a member of the CSA, which I'm also happy to be a part of, because it's really people who are really committed to our craft, and producer, as I mentioned, that I started helping and became a producer, and my real first love in college. So I'm so happy now to be directing, because although I was a theater major in college, my focus and primary interest was directing. So now I've been able to pool all of these great things that I've learned from other people and really amplify the artistry, not only of the actors as a director, but because I love all of those other crafts, that I love working collaboratively with all of the creative departments. So
That's wonderful. For people who don't know, what does CSA stand for?
The Casting Society of America, although we do now really focus on Casting Society because we do have members all over the world, but we've just left the CSA as our tag letters afterwards.
Oh, that's great. And I did want to touch on this for a little bit because you and I spoke about this offline for some time. Where do you see the union, the actors union? Do you do a lot of union work, or do you do non-union? Do you do a kind of a mix of both? Where are we kind of in
The
society?
casting director really is hired to be part of the creative team, so it's not delineated over union or non-union jobs. And certainly when I started in my career, I didn't even understand that there was something called a non-union actor, because I knew of the Screen Actors Guild, and in Washington, D.C., the majority of the work was Screen Actors Guild, and also AFTRA. At the time, they were two separate unions. So the Screen Actors Guild and then the American Federation of Radio and Television Artists, and now they have joined to be one union, and then of course Actors Equity. So I knew of those unions, and that was predominantly what I knew of. And then as time wore on, just due to budgets and economics, I was then introduced to that things are being done non-union. So I get hired to find the best actors regardless of their status. And then fortunately, if you are a non-union production and you do find, things have certainly changed over the years, you find a union actor, they are willing to have conversations with you. You can potentially flip the entire show and afford union actors when you were thinking you had to go non-union, because they have quite a diverse array of contracts that you can use now, which it didn't used to be that way. It was very specific. And now, fortunately, trying to be more accommodating to independent filmmakers with the contracts and allowing you to hire union people, or even mix union and non-union actors. So a big fan, it usually means people have gone through a couple of hurdles, but like anything, just because people have credentials and have done jobs of any kind, it doesn't always mean they're great at them. Because I found many a diamond in the rough who have not joined the union yet, particularly when I was casting House of Cards. The majority of the people I found was just digging and research and going to theater over the years and finding the majority of the talent who locally did not even have representation in regard to a manager or an agent, but were just people that we found. So I had a great team working with me as well, and we would just find great people. So I always reach out to acting teachers because they're at the pulse of people who are emerging in the industry. So I think it's a great thing because it sets standards and often pay standards for actors. But I do understand also as a producer that sometimes it's just cost prohibitive, and there's nothing a producer can do on a project.
Okay. Well, thank you for explaining all that. So I'd like to know, as a casting director, you have an excellent eye, amongst other things. Can you talk to us about, because it's such a fascinating job, can you talk about what were you like as a child? Like, did you ever think, I am going to have a career in the arts? Like, what was your personality like as a kid? And what do you think, what type of personality and traits should you have if you want to go into casting?
Which I love this question because I am not your quintessential, from the moment I was a child, I was going to be doing this. I was painstakingly shy till I was 23 years old. I could talk only to a group of 2 or 3 people. I was much better at the hands of, which I did study before theater, early childhood education at a group of children and really educating. And it was fortunately through some travels and up with people and my amazing acting professor, Gail Humphreys at American University, who really challenged me to do more and be more, as well as, various people and up with people. And then by stumbling into this job of being a leader, I could lean into that other people believed I could do it. And I had studied acting and I had studied directing. So why not pool those two things to become a great casting director? However, I will say at 13, there was a bit of a precursor. So I feel like 13 is a lucky number for me, because I saw my first Broadway play and I saw a chorus line. So while my mom was a little disappointed, there wasn't as much pomp and circumstance and costumes and the dancing and the lights and action. For me, the journey of a creative, I think you can expand it to not just be an actor, but the journey of a creative through that Broadway show was electrifying. And I remember thinking, those people have such a cool job. And then you flash forward to all these years later that now I get those people, cool jobs. So I think that little light bulb, happened. It was certainly in the back, of my memory. So that influential experience, I think, definitely helped with the trajectory. And equally, that also that same year we went to a reunion that my mom was having from high school at Little Rock Central High, which was the first school in the country to be integrated. And to hear
Wow.
that the school was closed for years, a kid who loved school, and that the National Guard was there with bayonets, that all of this was happening because 9 Black students were going to be coming to the school. I just couldn't even get my head around that. So the minute I was in an opportunity to be casting, and you're now on the creative team, I was often introducing minorities and also women for roles that were not written for them. So I loved it. It's in the zeitgeist of people thinking now when they're casting, but it was just something I was hanging my hat on my entire career because of those 2 very influential moments at 13 years old of seeing the journey of somebody trying to get a job they really wanted as a creative, and that we have to see it to be it. And I could have a hand at that.
Really great. Well, thank you. What type of character traits do you think someone really needs to have or should have if they want to go into casting?
I feel empathy is really important in this job because unlike most jobs you're interviewing for, I almost said auditioning for, you're interviewing for, you have fewer of these imprints, and often one of them leads to a yes, and you stay for some time. And certainly if you're a certain generation, you would have that interview and stay for 30 years. But with an actor, you could have 5 or 6 or 8 or even 10, depending what market you're in, of those a week, and the majority of them are no.
Yeah.
So you're living in a world that you have to fall in love with auditioning as your job, and that getting the job is really the icing on the cake. So living in a world of no, I think you need to be compassionate about people's nerves, about helping them, make the right choices. Because sometimes out of nerves, I think actors don't really make the best choice because they're so focused on getting the job and not doing a good job, that it's really our job to be empathetic and compassionate towards the journey that the actors are on. And then conversely, also really understanding story and logistics and how do you put together a puzzle to create an amazing cast, which I often tell. I'm on a Casting Confidential podcast weekly. We do talk about casting, obviously, and very specifically, I do remind whenever it's relevant that we're not casting a role, we're casting a show. And there's a number of roles within the show. So everybody does have to work together as an ensemble to be able to tell the story in the best way. Because if we had quarterbacks in every role, it's a lot of quarterbacks. And sometimes they don't play nice together.
That's true.
So we're really finding a great cohesive group of people. So, and I do think you need to be creative and think outside the box. That obviously there's things that are quintessential, a quintessential librarian, a quintessential police officer and lawyer and doctor. But as a myriad of people start to study these occupations, that the face of that has really changed over time. So it is, I feel, my responsibility as a casting director to push the envelope, to think outside the box, to maybe put somebody that we haven't seen in that role, so that the public is now seeing something different. So I always felt, again, one face at a time, I could change society's view on numerous different things just by thinking a little bit outside the box.
Yeah.
And knowing somebody's really talented, that they can actually create the role and tell the story that's needed of that actor. Why not put them forward? And 9 times out of 10, directors will say, it's not at all what I had in mind. Let's book that. Or, wow, it hadn't occurred to me that we could go in that direction.
Wow.
And it sometimes can ripple the entire cast the way you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then having proteges who've worked under me. It came up recently, a job that actually one of my interns who now works for me as a line producer has asked me to direct something. And through all of the imprints of having these conversations about casting, although the writer wrote the entire cast as white, that he then said potentially we should consider this family as a Black family and show that these kids are friends. And we're showing a slice of how life is, that Black people are friends with white people. Why can't we see that on TV? So I love that, again, you see it playing out there, that if you say it and other people then are doing it in the future. So I love that.
I love that. It's what you're doing is reframing, and it's such a inclusive way to work and to think and to expose and bring other people to the screen or to the stage that you may not see otherwise. That's lovely.
Well, and it was such an imprint at a young age, so I didn't really know and understand bias. that you can't think outside the box, and to, again, have great parents who were saying that this was just not a good time
Yeah.
in America, and that it just was a little seed that was planted and just, grew over time and became like a personal mandate that it's equality for everybody. I mean, that also then, includes women, that also the majority of the roles are often written for men. Even a script I read this morning that I have a meeting about later, it's all of the detectives were men. So I kept thinking, oh, is this going to be, oh, no,
Interesting.
no, no. And I thought, okay, well, I'll definitely be bringing that up in the meeting, that
Yeah.
women can be detectives too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a small town in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, we can. Yeah, amazing. Would you like to talk about, I mean, you have a number of films that you've directed, that you've cast, that, I mean, I love, and TV shows. Would you like to talk about a couple of your favorite projects that you have that are most memorable to you?
This is always such a hard question because, again, I've had the luxury of working on really big shows, and I think that's the first instinct. And while that was an amazing learning ground for me, and I'm proud to have worked on them because I learned something, it's often these smaller, independent, regional projects that I become really personally proud of and could make me cry because I'm so excited about the opportunities, that it gave to other people. And so one of them was, I mean, unfortunately, it's actually not been completed yet, but I think the experience for the two young children was paramount. It was a story about how parents deal with having special needs children. And so we did cast a 10-year-old at the time with Down syndrome and a 9-year-old, and she was autistic. And it was about how their two families were coping. And so to have two authentic children and to see how professional they were and how important it was to them to do a great job, and that it was nothing they were doing in their normal life. The parents were so excited about the opportunity that is what I'm so proud of, because the opportunity it gave those children to see and do something that they may not otherwise have done. And it was a first time for a lot of people on the crew too, who were doing things. So that was great. But I think it was particularly those two children and giving this opportunity. And locally, I recently just finished The Other You, and we had an amazing cast that included fantastic people, all local. And they were able to play two versions of themselves. This is a really great acting opportunity for actors to be able to play themselves in this real world as well as the closet world, and to see their distinct choices. And I loved when I would have people watch and ask, oh, did you get twins to play in the movie? Because they really didn't think it was the same people. So I love that.
Wow.
So proud of that. And then also fellow board member Ted Adams, I worked with him on Try, which, again, very proud of that one. It was a great opportunity for so many local people to have opportunities. Jay Jameson was a first-time director. That the cast had 43 people. So it was maybe it was even more than that, but I just happened to remember the number 43. So it was an amazing opportunity to get a lot of local people work, and that they had to bike, swim, run. They actually had to do a lot of tasks. So to be able to find people to do that. And then there was people that were related. So we had to find people that looked like each other. So it was, a colossal producing job. It was also a colossal casting job, but so fun. We had so much fun. And then in finding like backups for different roles, I literally even specifically made Ted and Jay get online to watch one of the auditions for the actors. And he was my backup because we were able to get Chris Williams and Sean Pulaski for the film. And at the time, she was working a lot doing stand-up, so she was a recognizable face, and Chris was in Dodgeball. And he was my backup for Chris, because Chris is always auditioning for pilots. So at any point, he could just be cast, and so I needed a backup. But then when they saw the backup, and he did do an amazing job. So self-tapes, people, you can book jobs from self-tape, because this was way before self-tapes were a thing, but Jalen Moore was in LA, and so he sent in his self-tape, and we were all just in love with him playing that role. So we refigured things and beeped up Chris and gave him another role. So I was just very, very proud of that whole production, because we just did a lot. And also it was off, our plates and onto the festival circuit within less than 1 year. So that was also a big feat, because it's hard to actually get films done. And, it takes a while to edit a feature, but everybody was just full tilt working on that. And then more recently, a fun challenge was a pilot that I shot in Los Angeles. and John O'Hurley, who I actually met at the Chesapeake Film Festival, and I have become quite good friends. And so he loves to work on projects that I find for them suitable, and using this pilot. And to
Wonderful.
also then shoot a pilot in Los Angeles, I had 11 interns that came with me. So again, that one
Amazing.
makes me proud because it was life experience for students in the industry, and they had started college during COVID. So they really didn't have that practical hands-on experience I had. So it was very important for
Wow.
me to create this opportunity. And so they came out, and that we shot that last July, and it is also now on the festival circuit. And we delivered for the
Wonderful.
festival starting in January. So we did that in July of last year, and we're
Wonderful.
already hitting the festival circuit. So I love a good challenge, and proud that I could get that completed. And I get submitting by January when we shot
Wow.
in July of last year.
That
But again, it was an amazing team. And I will say also proud of the other you and Now What, because they were ladies above the line. So it was giving women a lot of opportunities to direct, to be cinematographers.
wonderful.
And on both of the projects, a lot of the women were over 50. So
Oh, I love that. I love that. See, that I love, because when people, especially women, turn a certain age, they feel like, oh, no, I can't. And you know what? No, you can, and you should.
You're often even better equipped to do all of it because you now have all of this life experience behind you, and any hesitancy you would have had before, I think you've garnered success in agency in other areas, and it's all transferable knowledge that you just, apply somewhere else to it. And all those life experiences really inform how you, run the set, how you do what you do. So it's never too late, I think, for women to transition into any area of storytelling.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Well, what I'm hearing is you have given so many people, you just have given people opportunities, especially a lot of locals. Like, it's amazing. And you have this inclusive, about everyone approach. And I love that. And it really shows in your work. And we're so excited to have the other you in the Chesapeake Film Festival this year. It's going to be screening. So we're very excited about that.
Is that it? Now what? Fortunately, they're both screening back to back.
That's amazing. That's so exciting. And this must be, because it's such hard work, this must be so validating when you see everything come to fruition, and then you see it being exposed to the world in festivals, wherever it's going to be. What does that feel like to you?
It makes you so proud, and to sit in the audience, because then it's not only about my success, because often as a producer, you are the mother of the whole ship that's running. And so you're just proud of everybody. I mean, I find even when I've watched something so many years later, that you're still smiling at people's performances, smiling and remembering what opportunity that this person had and that they excelled at it. So it is a life of soul food. Independent film is not a life of making money, but if I died tomorrow, my tank is not even full, but overflowing of just joy and accomplishment for myself and others. And that is important to me, that where some people may be driven by something else, but I think life experience is so important.
100%. Well, and I mean, it's such a privilege to be on the board with you. I continue to learn a lot from you. I see how you're always thinking outside the box with such amazing ideas, and you really are a trailblazer. You're a force. You have a real presence about you, and I just so appreciate that. And the other thing is, you just speak up, which I love. Like, when you have something to say, you say it unapologetically. Kimberly is unapologetically Kimberly, and that is something like I picked up early on about you, and I love that about you, and I continue to learn a lot. So it's like,
well, I do thank my parents for that. It was, again, that influential moment of hearing about Little Rock Central High and hearing it is sometimes hard to be the unfavorable voice, but it is so important. And then the dear friend of the family was the first woman to graduate from Little Rock Central High School. Years later, she became friends with the family. And so to hear from a person who has had firsthand accounts of really having to work hard to make a difference, it gives you the wherewithal to, even if you're not going to be the popular voice, it is so important to stand up. And I do, try to convey that, particularly to every woman that I work with, that it is hard to be the unfavorable voice, but if you don't do it, someone else might not. And now what you encountered, many more people will encounter. So
very true. I've had to stand up for a lot of important things, especially during the Me Too movement. That was really, really difficult. And you know what?
Yes.
When someone comes forward, it's like, okay, I'm here to support you now. I'm going to come forward. So our voices are everything. Yeah. Yeah, they really
Yeah.
are.
And it's, I mean, that first step is the hardest, but once you do it, you really could be, avalanching something for someone else.
Yeah, no, for 100%. Well, I have another question for you, and then I'll do my little plug for the festival. Um, wh- so in terms of casting, is there something that gets overlooked? What would you like people to know? People that maybe want to go into casting that have no idea. What gets overlooked? Is the hard work? Is it the amount of people you see? Is it the decision making, the time, the time management? What is it?
Oh, wow. That one's so interesting. What I would say is really looking more into the actor as a storyteller, because some actors will have a great look and some actors are really great at the audition process, and I think that was easier to overlook when we were in the room, because people are really capturing you in the moment. But really seeing that an actor has an understanding of story, and so just because the
Yeah.
audition was right on, that doesn't always mean that that's the actor to pick. It's the actor that maybe thought outside the box telling the story, or that if you gave them notes, were they really able to adjust and retell the story? Because that's what a director needs on set. They need somebody who's a creative collaborator. And if you've got somebody that gets so stuck in their journey on that one story and they can't open up and rethink the story, because their scene partner may come with new ideas that may intrigue the director. So you as the scene partner also needs to be able to integrate and move and be nimble with that story. So looking for that depth in actors, particularly for a leading role in a film, because we're going to have to spend a lot of time with that person. In commercials, it's not necessarily as important, because really just if they look like me or they look like you and that's what they're looking for, that's what they're looking for. But really to be a storyteller and enhance and embody a character, and you want to be hiring actors who can be the role that they're playing. So really dig deep on the storytelling.
I love that. That's amazing insight. Thank you so much for that. Is there anything else that you would like to add or say?
Well, I think what's really important, it just gets overlooked in general, is the audience. We are all doing this for the audience. So if the audience doesn't watch it on the streaming or tune into television or show up at the festival, that all of these pieces of art are made to be seen. And so we want people to see them and to see them in community. That certainly during COVID, I think people got really used to watching things at home and on television, but to see something on the big screen and to see it in community with others, and then very specifically to see them at film festivals where you can meet, part of the cast, directors, producers, cinematographers, be able to talk to people who are creating all of this. It's just a golden opportunity to pull back the curtain and see what goes on in storytelling. And know that most people, there's the 1% that's making a ton of money in the industry, but the remainder of the people, we're doing it because we love telling stories and we love having an impact on society. Because for me, the stories I'm working on, I want there to be some underlying societal message that somebody's really conquered something in the story that will resonate with people long after they leave the theater. And personally, things that I'm directing, I feel confident in saying that I want people to feel my movies, not just see them.
I love that. Oh, that's beautiful. And you're talking about also like relatability. Maybe there's people who can actually relate, which is amazing. And so, wow, I love that.
There's always some universal message in a film that even if it seems a little quirky and offbeat, if you can really then as a director tune into the emotional impact that your project is going to have on the viewer. Otherwise, they could just read the script. Like, they don't need us to make it come to life. So we really need to tap in to something that's going to grab their heartstrings or strike a chord of being a woman who's accomplishing something and you were too afraid to do it. Well, if she could do it, then maybe I could do it. So it's a real opportunity for social change, and we're educating the guise of entertainment. So I love that too.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for your insight, Kimberly. Thank you for your transparency. This is such an exciting podcast. I think our audience is going to get so much out of this. So again, thanks to everyone for joining. Kimberly, thank you for your time today and for all of your just amazing, amazing insight and your expertise. So thank you.
I know. We'll see everybody at the festival.
Yes, for sure. I would like to remind everyone, this is very exciting. The tickets are now on sale with the Chesapeake Film Festival. So you can go online and purchase your tickets. So please go online and visit us at ChesapeakeFilmFestival.com. And if you have any inquiries, any questions, you can reach out to us at info@ChesapeakeFilmFestival.com. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again for our next podcast.